8 o'clock. It's 23 minutes past 7.
The country's pharmacists want the go-ahead to be allowed to provide more vaccinations. They also want changes to bankruptcy law as it affects chemists. Joining us, Bernard Duggan, who chairs the Community Pharmacy Committee of the Irish Pharmacy Union. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathal.
More vaccines for what? Or against what?
Cathal, we're calling on the government to expand the role of the pharmacist by provide additional vaccination services in community pharmacy. We're looking at providing vaccines against cervical cancer, vaccinations against hepatitis B, against pneumonia, and travel vaccines. This would improve patient outcomes, it would combat the spread of diseases, and it would also provide greater access and awareness of vaccination, which would overall improve the levels of vaccination in this country.
You've left out one other thing. It would also make you money. How much?
Well, Cathal, with this year this is the second year we've started providing the influenza vaccination service through community pharmacies, and the number of vaccines has doubled this year.
What do you get from the government for administering one flu vaccine?
We receive a fee of €15 from the government for providing a vaccination to patients.
And how does that compare with what doctors get?
I think doctors get a fee of about €28 for providing the vaccination. We have called on the government to review the fee that they provide us for vaccination. There is a cost in providing the service, but it does have huge benefit to the government. We found in this year's figures that over 28% of patients who got a vaccine from community pharmacy had never been vaccinated before, and of that group, 4 out of every 5 were in the at-risk group. So these are patients who should have been getting the flu vaccine. If they had got the flu, they would have ended up in hospital and cost the state a lot more. So there is a great amount of savings to be achieved in the service.
Any reason to be at all concerned about we're talking about serious diseases like hepatitis B, cervical cancer, to feel, as a layperson might feel, isn't this doctor's work? Better to run this past a doctor than a pharmacist?
Well, the government is looking at its primary healthcare strategy to expand the capacity in primary care. So it needs to look at other healthcare professions like community pharmacists to see what else they could be doing so they can increase capacity in primary care, and that GPs then can be looking at maybe the more sick people in hospital and possibly treating them in primary care, and that will achieve savings for the state.
I saw a figure on your website that your weekend annual conference was told 1 in 4 pharmacists is actually operating a loss.
That's right. Grant Thornton conducted a survey in 2011, and at that point 1 in 4 pharmacies were working at a loss. There is, like any other business at the moment, we're suffering from reduced consumer demand. There's increased business costs, increased regulatory costs, and also we've suffered cuts in our fees from the government. This is quite concerning for pharmacists because they are trying their best to continue to provide services to patients, to provide employment. There's over 18,000 people employed in the sector. But also it's a great concern for pharmacists because if they're making a loss, the worst case scenario would be they would close and be declared bankrupt.
Yeah, but I mean, I can think of parts of Dublin where there's a pharmacy literally 3 doors down from the next one, or across the road from the next one. In places there are just too many chemists.
It's a very highly competitive sector. It is one of the most competitive in Ireland. Here in Ireland, we have one of the most competitive pharmacy sectors in Europe. There is no restriction criteria on who can open a pharmacy. In other countries in Europe, there is restriction criteria, like you have to be a pharmacist.
Let's come on to the change in the bankruptcy law that you would like. And this is a recent law, 2007. It prevents individuals who are bankrupt from being registered as pharmacists. Now, what was the union's view in 2007?
Well, when the legislation was introduced, we asked for this to be amended or changed. We're required every year to register with our regulator, the Pharmaceutical Society of Ireland, and one of the requirements is that you haven't been declared an undischarged bankrupt. This restriction isn't imposed on any other healthcare professional, and it's not referenced in bankruptcy legislation, and we can't find any explanation as to why it is put in the legislation.
Are there bankrupt pharmacists who want to get back into business, or potentially bankrupt pharmacists who would like to go bankrupt and then get back into business, who will be affected by the law as it stands?
Well, as I said, 1 in 4 community pharmacies are now making a loss, so people are finding it quite difficult out there. But if the worst case scenario happens, they do become bankrupt, they then don't have an access to continue to make a living because they can no longer re-register as a pharmacist. So that's why we're calling on the Minister to change this part of the legislation.
Bernard Duggan of the Irish Pharmacy Union, thank you very much. 27 minutes past 7.